Stream. Audio. Yes. Stream. Bucket Hat. Gilligan's Island. Gotta test the audio. My channel. Live. No ads. Run. Play. Oh, cool. Okay. So, today I want to just kind of like pick up where I left off on the mono repo last time. I've made some changes to my code setup a little bit here. Oh, this looks a little wide, people wide. Let me see if I can. Nah, it's just like that. It's just built different. Maybe I can increase the change the size of this window, and that'll maybe decrease some of the stretching. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I just wanted to kind of like pick up where I left off with this mono repo. I have a few things that I wanted to do. So I think I put them, where did I put those? Stream. So in this assets, I said that I wanted to add a relationship graph, eventually make it an environment variable, not a huge deal. Added Alfred workflow to the repo. I did that. There's now Alfred workflows here. So for example, you can see that there's a PM Obsidian, the YouTube clip Alfred workflow that is pretty much the same thing as YouTube clip 10 seconds, but the actual, this is just the code for it. This is the Alfred workflow for it, which I use all the time in my blog. The append to resources and Kanban file in an Obsidian Vault, the important app switcher, and soon I'm hoping to add the GPT add-ons that or workflows that I've written as well. So that's good here. And then Alfred section to the mono repo. Again, that's also done because of the script. So where is that? Summarize readmes.py. So this one, because it just generates readmes using the directory, generates the relationship graph. If I look at readme summary MD, you can see Alfred workflows in here. And if I go into preview mode, scroll down to, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Hold. Oh, there it is. I passed it again. Why is this so hard to find? Can I search in? Alfred workflows. Oh, all right. I have a table of contents. The README is in here too. So that worked good. I think that there are a few things that I want to do in terms of like adding. Because I guess like the big philosophy behind monorepo, right, is that I wanted a place where I can have my GitHub projects that aren't just the pinned projects. So like these, for example, are the ones that are pinned on my GitHub repo. And this is kind of like all of the projects that I use on my computer to kind of build a story as to like what all of these projects do and stuff like that, right? And how they're related. So I think the next step is to try and figure out how to make any new project. So let's say over here that I have like a new project that has just like a name. So let's just give it like new project. So there's like a new project that comes in. Usually a new project, and I'm going to be talking about this as well, starts off with an idea roughly for programming. And then over here, I'll have my kind of like process of building it. So over here, it's like the kind of like process to build. I really don't know where to put this microphone because like if I put it over here, it's in the way of my mouse hand because I'm left-handed. But if I put it in front of my face, I can't see the keyboard and I don't know how to type without it being in front of my keyboard. But if I put it too high, then it's in front of my camera. It's a conundrum. It's a coinkydink. but yeah, so the process to build an idea kind of like both are the components of a new project. So you can imagine that like this thing we're actually going to talk about too, like the making of ideas. I've been having some pretty interesting ideas as well as the process that I use to build these new projects. But these are both components of a new project. But anyway, so new projects, it depends. So some projects just become so some projects just stay in idea form or loosely executed on. A loose execution of an idea is like something that's not really fully thought out. It's just kind of like playing around. In an MVP is another way that you might think about it in like a more businessy perspective. Then I have like local applications that work for me. And a local application that works for me is like the the kind of like type of apps that like function, but they only work if like everything is in such a way, right? Like if uh, your Mac is at a certain update level and you have all of your keybinds matched, and it's really finicky state is basically another way to think about this. So I would put over here that like it's kind of like it's like finicky. So works but finicky. So works but finicky. So yeah, let's do that and connect. Oops, connect these bad boys. And then the loosely executed on, these don't really work. So uh, work in theory. So they're not like really apps yet or fully thought out projects. Local apps that work for me are like finicky to the way that I've set up my computer. So, or that I've set up my environment. So, um, heavily setup dependent. And then the third type of project is kind of like a public release project. This is kind of like a open source project, so like an OS on GH project, or like a SaaS app like stenography, or I think that's mainly it, at least for like the stuff that I do, but or like even like a finished video or something like that, right? So like a finished video essay. These a little bit less so, right? Like I guess that like my how do I change this fill to be less annoying? Maybe I can change the fill opacity. No, that changes the whole opacity of the whole thing. Uh well, that's actually kind of better. Weirdly enough, I think the stroke is kind of getting away. So like a finished video essay is interesting because it doesn't. I don't know if what I how my philosophy has evolved on this, but I've written a lot recently that I've like gone back and read, and I haven't been really too happy with what I've written. But like when I go back to look at like the programs that I wrote, I'm happy. And I've been trying to figure out why that's the case. I don't think it's necessarily that I'm a better programmer than writer, or in terms of like more uh sufficient. Maybe it's just that programs like when you run them again, it's like it's kind of like revving up like an old car, like an old Mustang or something like that. Like you get to feel the whole machine kind of come back to life. Whereas like when you read an essay that you wrote maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, your thought process on the world has changed and evolved, but you can't really change it. It's kind of like frozen in time. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, so like I think that that's kind of like this the three levels of output, and are uh they all serve different purposes. GH, or let's say the Obsidian App Store, because I do drop a lot of Obsidian plugins. Okay, let's make this peepo wide and lower that, and then oh fuck, move that over here. Is this attached to this or this? Okay, there. Um, anyway, so because of the way that we're setting up monorepo, it kind of makes sense to me that when I make a new project that reaches one of these states, I have to decide what state A goes into the monorepo and when like to just make a script that very easily adds it to the monorepo is going to be pretty important, I think. Um, so like looking at over here, like at the types of projects that are in here, many of these are the second type. Like many of these, like, so this one is like a type 3. So like, let's go here and I'll just like say that this is, hold on. This is type 1, type 2, and type 3. So archive is generally going to be filled with T2 apps that I don't use anymore. So like T2s unused and probably T1s as well, plus T1s. Yeah, this is a T3 BHOV. ChatGPT export is a T2 as well. It keeps wanting to select this. I'm trying to do like annotations. It's actually pretty difficult because it's selecting the whole thing. ChatGPT MD. Let's just copy this now. Let's like not bother to. Is a T3. 11 Labs Obsidian is like a T2. I ain't reading all that. It's a T2. Obsidian Ghost Publish is like a T2, comma 3. It's kind of in between both. 11 Labs Obsidian is a T2. I ain't reading all that. Is a T2. Even though it could be a T3. Process Notes Alfred. T2 just runs locally on my machine. The Zettel T2. That's you can skip that one. Summarized is a T2. Switchboard is a T2 3 as well. This is one for writing ChatGPT plugins, which is another thing that I'm planning on doing. Not maybe on this stream, but maybe later today or tomorrow if I come back and do that. This switches light, dark, auto. Interesting. YouTube assets from video is a T2. And then YouTube clip T 10 seconds is a T2. So it looks like most things that end up in here are T2s or T3s. Not really any T1s made it under the paradigm that I was just describing here, where things that are like kind of pseudocode or work in theory don't really make the cut to make it to monorepo. Because I have a lot of repositories that are like I just don't use, but sit in like a really early idea state. Like, let me see if I can find one that I guess proves the point here. Let me get this GitHub real quick, and let's see what's just a good repo that I just don't touch anymore. Oh, here's one I haven't updated in a long time. Neferpito. Let me take a picture of this. So here's a good example of how the times have changed. And when the times change, the app stack that you use doesn't always evolve with it. So Neferpito goes here. So yeah, so in this app, for example, I have my upsert documentation. Basically, the way that this app works is that it uses TXTAI to embed Obsidian files, and then read them through kind of like a semantic search type fashion. But like it was really hard to build, and I didn't really like where the build was going, so I kind of gave up. So that's like a T2 that gets turned back into a T1. I think that's actually interesting. So there are like different like sometimes like a T2 will become a T1 because of like uh I decide to stop working on it. I would say that like a T3 becomes a T2 when uh I decide to stop maintaining it. Which has happened before too. I've had a number of repos that people will hit me up about, and they're like, "Hey, can you change something?" And I'm like, "No," because I just don't want to do it. Right? I don't want to maintain it. And then obviously, there's a lot of projects that can go from T1 to T2, uh, which is just going to be like the regular working process, and T2 to T3. Okay, so where does that leave us? So it basically tells me that this is where most monorepo apps live. This red one here. These local apps that work for me are where um, most projects are in monorepo. I think a public release project also is in monorepo, but is a little bit more rare. Did I do 4 or 5? These look exactly the same to me. This one's like slightly pinker. Jesse Pinkerton. Um, but not really ever the loose ideas. So we probably want some kind of logic that does a few things. So we'll want some kind of function, some kind of black box that oh, what just happened? We're gonna want some kind of black box here that basically checks for a few things. So we're gonna want to Control Z. We're gonna want to check for a README for the project. We're going to want to make sure that there is an active GitHub repo of the same name, perhaps. Same as project name. I don't think that's a requirement. Um, and then like it at minimum in state 2. Which, how do I verify that? That one's a little bit harder to verify. It's pretty easy to check if there's a README MD file. It's pretty easy to check GitHub and say like, hey, do I have a GitHub repo for this? But like the minimum state 2 is pretty interesting because it's like this works but finicky is, or like heavily setup dependent, applies to a lot of these, right? Like I was saying over here, for example, ChatGPT export is pretty finicky. 11 Labs Obsidian is pretty finicky. I ain't reading all that, pretty finicky. Like a lot of these apps work, but like you need to kind of tease them out a little bit. I guess maybe T2 could be a philosophy a little bit. Like it's like, oh, if it's in T2 state, then like write an extra readme section about like like a stack dump almost, as it were. I think that can make sense. Yeah. Okay, so let's leave that for now. So let's say that what's today? The 19th. So 19, and then we're gonna say um that we want a script to add a submodule and we want to check if it has a GitHub and a README. Then we want to use add submodule to monorepo, and then add the submodule to the relationship graph, and then add or recreate README, recreate the README. Yeah, so I think that that looks pretty good for this script. And then another thing that I wanted to do was do tags. So like tag the different projects. I guess I could do that through the relationship graph visually. Is that annoying though? Like if I have like these nodes over here and they all are like, if this is a tag node because it has like the color red or blue, and then everybody can see like, oh, these are the children of the tag node. Is that good? Um, I don't know. I mean, I can kind of see why that would be helpful, but I don't know if that would be something that I'd be interested in pursuing too heavily in terms of like, would it just be easier in the README just to say that these are the tags for the, uh, yeah, like it would probably just be easier to do that. But how do I get those tags is another question. That's an open question. Nodes. Yo, what's up, dude? How art thou? I'm back with a better internet connection. What's nodes? Nodes like Nodes.js? Or nodes is in nodes in a graph? Oh, I know, he's back. Yeah, I was like recording a few days ago and I was like, why am I recording when I could just stream and get the videos for free? I heard you say nodes, so I had to say it. That's true. Yeah, I do be saying nodes. Let me explain to you a little bit what's going on here. So I have a lot of different projects that are uh, buried all over my computer. And I think that because software doesn't have a real physical presence, you don't really get to see it the same way that you like would see like a messy room, for example, or like all your clothes being organized on the floor or something like that, right? So I created this mono repo, which is basically a collection of all of the projects that I've been working on. Um, and you can see here that some of these are T2s and T3s. So like the difference between a T2 and a T3 is that like a T2 is like something that works, but it's like really heavily setup dependent. It's kind of like back at school with computer science. Do I have a certain naming convention that I use? Not really. I think that like, yeah, no, not at all. Now that I'm looking at these, like this 11 Labs Obsidian one uses the new 11 Labs TTS thing that everyone is doing. So usually I'll like include the name of the thing inside of it, like ChatGPT MD has like ChatGPT in it, of course. Uh, Ramsey's highly opinionated vault is like another Obsidian thing. Um, YouTube assets from video. So I mean, like some of it has a naming convention, but not really a good naming convention. I could get better about that for sure. But yeah, just to kind of like finish the thought, is that like, you know, these are like the three kind of like, you know, you start off with an idea for a project, and then this is kind of like a double arrow. You have your process to build, and eventually you have a finished project. And I think that like finished to me can mean like one of three things recently. Like the way that, I don't know why this is connected to that. Some projects are kind of just like these idea form projects. This is kind of like a little bit more I would come up with a folder naming construct convention. Yeah, no, that I do have like a I have like a projects folder and an archive folder, and I keep and then my resources folder. So like in my I use the para methodology. So like here's like my whole file system, and then I'll have like projects, uh areas, archive. Actually I don't really use areas. So like this one here is like my projects. These are the active projects. So this one's the smallest. So this is like the ones that I'm spending the most time with. So like uh these are like 100% time, uh uh smallest. Let's say 0% storage. 0% storage, right? Because this is like the top of mind type projects. Then I have my hold on, let me label this as projects. Then I have my resources, which are kind of like resources are actually even smaller than projects, I would say. I'm usually working on more projects than I'm doing any given resource. So like a resource would be like smaller, but also doesn't take time. So like 0% time, 0% storage. And then over here we have like the archive, which is like way bigger. It's kind of like the elephant graveyard. So it's like the where all the projects go to die. Um, which is also 0% time, 100% storage. And I have a perfect picture for this. Elephant graveyard. Yeah, Lion King images. Copy and paste. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Hold. Hold. Lion King. I was thinking in terms of like Obsidian related projects, ChatGPT related projects. So you have a methodology that the problem is though, like, it's like, I agree with you. I don't disagree. I think that like over time, certain methodologies become jail cells, right? Like if it's too strict, then you get captured in trying to maintain the strictness, and like the measure becomes the goal, for lack of a better term, right? Where you'll feel like, oh, this needs to fit into like my current architecture, or I can't use it. And I think that that can kind of get a little bit toxic. Anyway, Lion King, elephant graveyard. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to pull up a god dang images. Didn't I right click this? Copy image. Maybe I have to do that. And then paste. Paste. There we go. So yeah, so my archive is kind of like the elephant graveyard of projects, which is fine. I don't think it needs to be good. But there are these two are more interesting to me because like these are like this is like the nice the nice dishware. So like China dishes. So you know, like if you've ever been like in an old person's house and they have all of these like china dishes that they keep on the shelf. Why won't you let me copy the image? So I think that like it's bigger than 2 MB. Channel in China dishes images. Is this 2 MB? Oh, that's a huge image too. These images are massive. What's a man got to do to get a small China? Hold on, I'll respond in a second. I'm trying to get this goddamn image. Copy image. Paste. Yeah, so I think that like these are like the nice dishes, right? Like these are the ones that I like keep on the shelf and like referred to a lot. These two projects, these are the ones that like are top of mind. So it's like both for me and for others too, right? Because I think that most of the time, like the projects that I've written that are in this public release phase already have been vetted to do a lot of different um, things, right? So like anything that's made it to that level of project completion already has a footprint that is very stable and easy to find, right? So it'll have like the YouTube videos will all be linked out, the blog posts will be written and edited, the README will be in good shape, and stuff like that, right? Like I think the main difference between T2 and T3 is basically the amount of effort that I've gotten rid of the finickiness of it. So it's like if there's a lot of times that you'll like write programs and then you'll write them to your very specific computer and then someone will be testing it. You'll be doing like UX testing and then you'll be like, "Oh, I guess it's actually broken" for like everybody else, right? So anyway, that's like kind of like the way that I've been thinking about this is that I have the T2 local apps that work for me that I want to actually talk about more, which I put into this mono repo because independently they don't really make much sense. But when you start to see them all together, the picture really starts to like build up. Um, so for example, here I have like the summarize readmes.md, which is like reading the finding all the README files in these subdirectories here and then turning them into markdown content. So what we need to do is we need to have a new script that's going to check for these variables and then it's going to recreate the different README. And then I want to add a tag logic to this thing too. So I may figure that we may as well just get to it. Yeah, let's do it. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to, let's say that we also want to finish the relations, finish adding the relations. So I think that the way that this script works in my brain, so let's like just copy this down here and paste it, is that the input will basically be a a link to a GitHub repo. And then what it should do, so actually we don't need this because it's going to have a GitHub repo already. And it should have a README. So it should, okay, so throw error if no, well, no GitHub repo found, I guess. And no README found. And then I want the output to add a submodule to the mono repo, add it to the relationship graph, add README to the submodule. No, to the mono repo. Regenerates the README. I think that's the bit. Recreates the README. So as a shell script, actually we can just write it in Python. Def add submodule, check if the GitHub link is valid, yada, yada, yada. I like that. Okay. So let's do that. So if not GitHub link, we raise a value error. That makes sense to me. Let's say, and if it returns a 404, then let's say if, no, let's do if requests dot GitHub link is not equal to 200. That'll be fine, I think. We'll raise that error. And then we have to check for README. So let's go here. Yep. If the GitHub link / blob master README MD is equal to 200. I think it's main these days though, but that doesn't really matter. Then we need to run the shell command to add it to the monorepo. So let's say path get, oh yeah, there we go. What is that? It's popen. Interesting. I don't know what popen is, so let's find out. Command alt n popen. Oh, that's so funny. I just stumbled upon this accidentally. Totally didn't know that I was doing that. Popen is like a Linux manual page that pipes stream to or from a shell process. So that's handy because that's literally exactly what we needed. How do I just put it in here in the Excalidraw? Copy, paste. Maybe it's too big. This file shouldn't be. Oh, there we go. I have noticed that this is already slowing down. There's like a plugin that allows for Excalidraw. Loose Cannon, dude, Poggers, what's up? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining the chat. Today we're talking about monorepos and why software developers might want to make one through my monorepo and the setting up of it. So we're using popen here to basically pipe a stream from a process, and I think that basically we're going to set up a shell and then have that shell uh, uh, do stuff for us, which is cool. Okay, so this is the submodule add, and then let's add this to relationship graph. So we can go back into summarize readmes. Let's see the relations. So relations look like this. So let's just go over here and then add another. The great part about Copilot is that I just use it to write all my code for me these days, which is really great on stream, I think in particular, because it's really stressful to stream and write code at the same time. I'm not gonna lie. Like it involves two very different parts of your brain. What's the value of a mono repo? So I think as a independent developer, like a solopreneur, right? Like we're I think because of large language models, we're gonna start to see a lot more um, programs in the world that aren't really fully uh apps that you might use on like the app store or like you might see on like a website, right? Like there's a lot of GitHub repos that will just like, for example, these are the ones that I've written that have been kind of like used by other people. And I think that like a lot of the time you'll write a program and it'll work for you and it'll be really new and innovative and helpful, but then you won't necessarily know like a business model for it or like how to share it. So you're saying code is becoming too distributed? No, I think it's like it's great that code is being distributed, and it's awesome that open source is a thing and that people are more invested into writing code that does cool things for people. But it's actually really hard to, oh, like the pieces are too separated. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, the pieces are definitely way too separated. There's um a lack of unity between different projects, even if they run on the same computer, if that makes sense. It's kind of like uh the kitchen and your bedroom are both in your house, and they both serve very different purposes, but they both are under the umbrella of a house, if that makes sense. And I don't think that GitHub does a good enough job of like showing the different relationships between uh, the different items within your GitHub repository. So, for example, over here, I have like a relationship graph that you can actually see on GitHub monorepo, which I can link in the chat real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Monorepo. Old. Paste. Dude, I swear to God. By all the old gods and the new. Okay. Paste. Dude, it doesn't let me paste. Okay, so no, GitHub it just it won't let me paste in the Twitch chat for OBS. Um that's strange. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so you can see here for example that there's like a mermaid graph that you can actually play around with and see how the different components work together, at least how they're visualized in my mind. And I was saying this earlier, but like you know, when you're building projects, it might make sense to you how all these things are connected, but you know, having to explain it to other people is kind of a lot of work. And I think that that prevents a lot of people from making software in the first place is all of the ligament kind of like connecting bullshit that people have to do to kind of like say that this project is dependent on these things, right? Um, Whereas like if you're running a business, that's actually a pretty low cost to take on because it's easy enough to just punt that to your development team or to your project managers and say like, hey, go figure this out. Like what exactly are we looking at here? And because of things like GPT, like as you were just seeing here, it's getting really easy to write code because you just kind of just tell it what you want to do and then it'll start to write code for you. So I think that there's a lot of new code that's going to exist in the world. It's kind of like the printing press moment of code in a lot of ways. Um, so people are going to need ways to kind of like connect it. And at the end of the day, I mean, like this is just a philosophy, but I think that for my mono repo, I wanted a place for my website to kind of like really centralize a lot of the different code projects that I've done. And I think that sometimes people will just make like a projects tab on their webpage. And the problem with just having a projects tag is that like it doesn't really capture the evolution of a project. So they might just capture it when it's at this first publicly released project state, but then occasionally you'll go back to working on it again and the project page itself won't update. So trying to take into account all of those. So let's say that we're creating a new key. So create a new key in the relations dictionary and then add the new key to the relations dictionary. So def uh, easy clap. Um, yeah, I think that's fine because then basically it'll just kind of like float in space, I guess. And then recreate the README. Let's get rid of this pass. We're going to, I don't think we need to, I think we just need to run popen uh, this popen command again. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to run the readme summarizer command, which is going to be in um, dot slash oops dot slash scripts. That's close, but not exactly what we want. Dot slash script slash readme summarizer. Let's copy this relative path here and then just paste. Is this right? No, I copied the wrong one. Copy the relative path of this one. Scripts, readme summarizer, summarize readmes, .py. Okay. Python, comma. This looks pretty good. So you want a single source of truth to capture how the individual pieces have evolved over time. Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that uh, we can already do that with the tools that we have. I think broadly speaking, I've been a big proponent of people owning their own website and their own stack. And ownership is obviously a strange word in a world where I'm streaming on twitch.tv. But I think that it's there's a balance to be struck between managing the size and scale of an undertaking, right? Like hosting video on bramadams.dev would probably be my end goal. Like that would be the my ideal end state, but like it actually is very hard to do and very costly. So using tools like YouTube and GitHub allow you to have these huge projects that you undertake that you're really proud of, and have them not just end up in the elephant graveyard, right? Where like this is like where your projects go to die. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot that I wrote that, right? Like I wrote that a month ago or a year ago or some shit. So I think that like having a thing like a mono repo is helpful, because basically you get to uh, see the current state of the person's brain when it comes to project management. Um, okay, so where were we with this? So I think this is good. Let's just run this and see how it goes. So we're just going to grab this Python code, and it's not going to work, of course, but we're going to go to the scripts. Let's say new folder. Let's call this, um, what even is this doing? This is called like a new project, new project. And then we're going to create a new script in here called init submodule dot py, and then we're just going to paste it. And then we're going to hit Alt Shift F. And it's going to tell me that I need AutoPep 8, which is one of our auto, whatever, yada, yada, yada. I stopped reading. So we don't have P open and we don't have requests, but I think that we can get those relatively easily. Ownership of the means of production, baby. Yeah. Oh, if you want a really good book suggestion, I know that we're just chatting in Twitch, but I can recommend a lovely book that I just finished called Developer Hegemony. And he talks about like the means of production as it pertains to developers kind of like taking back the means of production from like ownership of management and stuff like that. And it's like he has such a good formulation of his argument that I just really want to share this book with people. I think it's just such a good read. Let me link it. Open. Okay. Copied current URL. Augur. Paste. Yeah, really good shit. Okay, so where are we with this? So we need P open and we need requests. So let's say imports requests and subprocess import P open. We don't have a relations, so let's just create, because this is just a test anyway. Let's say that relations is going to be this dictionary that it has here, and then let's say that the GitHub link is going to be, I'm just going to choose a random GitHub repo of mine that I have. Let's see. Show more repositories. Where's my repositories? Right here. Type public. Okay, maybe. Dude, I have so many repos. Okay, Chat GPT to Chat GPT TS is a good one. So let's command this one, and then let's just put it here. And let's see how this works. We're gonna need to do this P open here. Well, actually, let's call this def recreate readme. And then we can just do this. And actually, I think that both of these need to take a shift tab. Okay, so why does this P open work, but this one doesn't? What's this one? What's wrong with this one? Did I spell it right? Oh no, poppin. Open. P open. Okay. So the problem with running this that I'm already realizing is that it's actually going to add a GitHub submodule. So first, let's just have it, instead of doing this, we'll just like have it do a ls of the file. So let's just say that it's going to do a pwd. P open because I don't know what's going to happen. And then let's say the def main, it's going to add the submodule, add the key, which is going to be the GitHub repo name. So let's extract the name. Where did I put that? Add submodule. What's this add key? Oh, okay. This takes key. So let's return. This is confusing. Let's take this code here and move it. Actually, we don't even need it. Let's return the GitHub link. Return just the name of the GitHub link. So return name of GH repo. This is going to be like a split on the last slash, and then we're returning anything after that. And then this is going to be a submodule name. And then we're going to return the relations, but we're going to print it first just to see what it is. And then the run create recreate readme is going to, that's fine. This is just going to recreate, this is going to run this file. I don't know if this is going to work because it's in a separate directory, but it might throw an error. So I guess we'll find out. And then we're just going to run it, see where we're at in life. Okay, so now I'm going to open my terminal and then I'm going to run it. CD new project. And then we're going to run Python init submodule. Okay, so this is what we got back here. So we get the Python init submodule, and then here's the new key, which actually we wanted to do submodule name, right? It did print the working directory. Weirdly enough, this add key fired before the add submodule. I guess popen, can we await popen? Await popen Python. Okay, so it says wait for the child process to terminate. Wait. So we can wait for it. But can we wait for it? You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Popen, do other stuff while P is. This is weird. Okay, so let's show you what I'm looking at here. Command C. Here, let's go to copy. I've learned my lesson. A lot of different paste issues. So this is what I'm using. This subprocess.popen, and then it says that popen watch does something, and then we can do terminate, communicate. Do we need, because I do need this to happen before I add the key. So I need it to finish before the key is done. So popen await Python Okay, so it seems like I can just do, I can make this into p equals this, and then let's wait for it. P dot wait. All right, what does that do? Let's run it again from the top. Now it should print the working directory before it does other stuff. Okay, yep, that worked. So now we have the code is in this state where it's printing the working directory. It's adding the correct key here. And then it's saying that it can't find this, which of course it can't because it's not in the right directory. I need to have it go up. I think it's looking for the script folders under new project, but it's also the parent folder of new project. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the script itself that I'm looking for is this readme summarizer, summarize readmes.py. So what I need to do is just have it do dot dot, and I think that that should work. Let's see. No, that didn't work. I guess this doesn't do relative, maybe. Yeah, dot dot. Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. But like, it doesn't. It seems like it doesn't do relative, because we're here and we want to be here. So dot dot slash. Oh, okay. Whoops. No, it was right. It's chill. It's chill. This is in the scripts. Okay, so now let's try it again. Let's see where we go. Dude, yes, let's go. So it actually put the README summary in here, which we don't, which we didn't want, but it's fine. So a little tangent as to what happens in the README summarizer. So the README summarizer is relatively complex, and it was all written by GPT, of course, because I don't write any code these days. But basically, you have your intro section, which is like the summary of what the thing is, the table of contents, which is going to be what you just saw here, where it's actually going through and like creating the GitHub table of contents. Um, where was it? Okay. The skip directories, like the ones that it's skipping, and then the root directory that we're targeting. Then it builds a relationship graph of these relations. So it basically uses Mermaid. The reason that I'm using Mermaid is that in GitHub, you can actually see it and play around with it in a GitHub README, which is really cool. I don't think you can do that with like D3 or anything. And then we're generating the table of contents. Pretty straightforward. Finding all the README files. So this basically looks through this whole directory and like actually finds the README files in here, which is pretty cool. And then the path and monorepo, generate the summary. You get it, GitHub links, root directories, and then the markdown files. So, I think that this is good. So I think that I'm going to actually run it on the GitHub link and let's see if it breaks. So let's get rid of this. Let's set this to our new P, and then we're going to wait on that one instead. We're just going to run it, and I'm going to minimize all of these. And then hopefully there'll be a new one here that's added, and we should be able to see it from our, oh, that's so loud. Sorry about that. The GitHub, there's like a GitHub sound on Visual Studio Code. I hate it. I turned it off, but it keeps turning itself back on. Okay, let's just run it. Let's see where we end up in life. Terminal. Boom. Summarize with, where is it? GPT to chat GPT TS. So the problem, oh, that's annoying. Yeah, that's really annoying. Okay. Oh, I think I can just move it. Did that break it? I don't think so. Okay, so there it is. So the sub repo is in here. Sub module, rather, is in here. We can see that it added it to the sub module list, which is pretty poggers. And then, oh, you didn't really hear it? Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear it. And then let's see if the README summary is updated. So if I go to the preview mode on Visual Studio Code, here's GPT to chat GPT GS. Let's go. You click it, there's the full README. Boom. Dude, this stuff is too easy. uh, I mean, not really, because like I guess I can do the target directory because GitHub submodule. I could just I wanted to create a file mover anyway, so I'm actually just gonna leave that as is for now because I think that I don't want to click any of these because we just went through that hell. But I think that I can actually just uh, create another script that handles all the moving stuff. So like, let's say that we have a script and then we want to move a project. Is this worth it? One thing about like being a programmer, right? Or a solo programmer is that you have to spend a lot of time thinking about like what's a good use of your time. And that's really subjective, obviously, right? But like sometimes it's like, okay, how much time do I physically save by like moving files back and forth? Like the README thing, huge time saver, right? Like if I were to manually copy and paste every README into readme.md, I would be a million years old. I don't want to do that. So having a script do it for me is great. Problem is, uh, also I need to update this. Does it update the No, it wouldn't update the relationship graph because the relationship graph isn't being updated. uh, but I can still change this README, which is fine. I think that I need some kind of like relationship file here. So let's just call this like relations.json. And then I'm going to, in this relationships.json file, it's basically just going to Shia LaBeouf just do it exactly. We out here doing it for sure. Um, I think I'm just gonna fucking copy the fucking README summarizer uh, relationship because this could get really out of hand. But we love it when things get out of hand. You know, that's the fun part about being a programmer. Is all the stuff that you get to get out of hand with really quickly. So we're gonna go back into init submodule. We need to do. We need to check actually first. It's really important to say we need to only add it if there is no GitHub link. So let's say that we have a submodule name is going to be the GitHub link, and then we're going to say if no if so we do actually need the root directory. So let's make a variable that says root directory. But I have that already here. So I'm just gonna yoink it. Just gonna yoink and croink. Yoink and scroink. And then we're gonna os.env. We're just gonna yoink and scroink this. And then we're gonna do that. Thank you, Copilot. Saved me. Sometimes it's fun to just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 keystrokes just saved by pressing tab. Welcome to the future. So let's say that read relations.json, read root. Wait, what the fuck? Okay. Oh, I hit up. That's why. I'm actually really bad at typing. Read root dir slash relations relate relations.json. Relations is equal to no. Bad. Okay. Def read relations. No, don't pass. Is it file IO? Read relations.json. Yeah. 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 That's exactly what I wanted. Okay. So now import JSON. So we have the read root dir relations.json. We're reading this relations.json. We're loading it, and that's great for us. That's a really great thing. We have .env, which is fine. It's just saying it's complaining about the word. So if what we wanted to do here was that we wanted to read, so we want to read root dir for submodule, and if it exists, throw an error. So let's say if, yep, submodule already exists. So let's actually get rid of this popen and run it again with our changes. And then we want it actually to say this error. We want it to surface this error that the submodule already exists. That's the goal here. So I'm gonna just run it in my terminal, and it says this, which is not what I was hoping for. If os path dot root dir none type. Okay, so root dir is returning none, but it shouldn't be. Let me check that though in my terminal. Maybe in my end file. Oh, I think. Wait, how did this one work? ls/latr. Okay. So I have another folder that has my env file. So I actually just need to recreate it. cd new project touch dot env nano dot env paste control X. Yes, enter. Okay, now this should work. So now if I run it again, oh, let's go. So this error is gone, and we get this error, which is good. This is what we want to see. Okay, let me just take a second to think about what we've accomplished and what there is still to accomplish. And I have to go pretty soon, but I will maybe be back later tonight to work on this. So we wrote an init submodule that checks for a submodule to exist. And then if it doesn't find the submodule, it'll run the Python creator. And now we basically want to do the relations.json real quick. We're going to add the key to that. And then I think that I'm going to probably pause it there for now and then come back in the future, maybe tonight or tomorrow, and do the rest of it just to let it sit in my brain still. So relations is not defined. Yeah, I expected that. So actually let's pass in relations as an object here, the dictionary object, and then we're printing relations and returning it, which is going to be chill. So Add key relations. So let's just see what it does. Relations is going to be the read relations. This is going to still throw the error. So I'll just comment this right now because we don't want it to throw the error. We wanted to skip it, but we don't want it to do the submodule stuff either. We just need the name. So let's run this command again. Okay, and now if I go to relations.json, look at that. Wait, no, that's what it was before. Okay, so I need to write to it. So let's say def write relations, easy clap. And then let's return the relations that we just wrote. And then down here, we're just printing the relations, which we don't care to do, but we can add the key and then, oh, does this change our object? And then we're going to write the relations, and then we're going to recreate the README. No, we're good. Okay, we're going to run this, and it's going to work great. Hold. Oh, there it is. It doesn't do pretty, but we can make it easily do pretty. JSON.dump indent 4, and then we can run it again. Dude, Pogger's in the layer. Look at that. Look at that. That's it. That's basically what we wanted to do. That was the goal that was being set out to do. We have in our assets said that we wanted to have a script that adds submodule if it has a GitHub and a README. So we did the error checking there. So that's checked. Add the submodule to the monorepo, check with popen. Add the submodule to the relationship graph, check. And recreate the README, check. So yeah, this was good. This was good. I think that I'm gonna have to do a little bit more thinking about the distinctness between the T2s and T3s in the mono repo, but I'm gonna give some thought to that, and then I'll probably change the README summarizer later too. But this was some pretty good learning, I think, overall. This I'm happy with where this ended up. So this is just, yeah, doing this link, but like the idea should be that it should take a, actually, let's go do an input for link, GitHub link. Yeah, easy clap. Recreate the README. And then let's try this one more time with a sister repository of the one that I just did. So let's go to my GitHub and then -pi, GPT to chat GPT pi, Command-Shift-C, copy the URL, go to my terminal, run clear, because we clear things around here, Python init submodule, enter GitHub link, paste, pulls it down, GPT to chat GPT pi, let's go. And hopefully I can, wait, how do I, this is very annoying, wait, hold on. Maybe I will make that move script. Just not now. If I go to the README summary, this is still going to be wrong because we're not updating this in the README summarizer yet. But if I see TS here and pi, awesome. So I can just move that over to the README, save this, and then if I look in relations.json, oh, it's beautiful. I see, I want to run it one more time with the same thing, and it should say no. It should tell me no. It should be like, you can't do that. That's against the rules. Command the link, paste it. Oh, yes. Submodule already exists. Woo! Okay. Cool. Actually, poggers. What the fuck? Poggers 2 returned. Oh, the poggers. Okay. Sync the changes. Boom. And there it is, folks. Easy as that. We updated our relationship graph. So now we have more friends. We updated the code to include better logic to create a new project from a GitHub repo. So now I can just copy and paste a GitHub repo and it just works. And it updates the README too automatically, which is great. So I think I'm going to pause for now. I might be back later tonight. Loose Cannon and Mr. Propaganda, thank you for joining the chat. I appreciate y'all. This has been quite lovely. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.